I think it's safe to say that the Nick Cage license coming to DBD is exactly what the Doctor ordered, especially with the last few chapters being a bit questionable in their quality. The Cage license is a big license with wide appeal and just a hint of nobility, with this being the first celebrity license and all. It was immediately apparent after the reveal that this, alongside the release of the Singularity, has done a lot to capture the attention of both returning and new players alike. However, after the initial hype died down, I was surprised to see that basically nobody was discussing what exactly this license entails for the future of DBD. So for the time being, I've put the video I've been working on for the past 8 months or so on hold, so we can hopefully properly discuss this rather strange time for both DBD and the ASIM genre as a whole. First off, let's start with the obvious. Nick Cage may be the first celebrity license, but he won't be the last. The attention this announcement brought to the game alone is more than enough to prove that it is in Behavior's best interest to keep bringing in celebrity licenses. If that wasn't enough, the popularity of this license means that Behavior has also just found a solution to the largest problem looming over Dead by Daylight's head. It's undeniable that licenses are the lifeblood of DBD. Every single time the game has seen a massive jump in players or pop culture relevance, it has been because it has gotten a certain big license, like Michael Myers from Halloween, Stranger Things, Silent Hill, Resident Evil, etc., etc. Even the smaller licenses do consistently better than the original chapters, as long as there isn't some extreme controversy around the license. And while initially this is great for the game, it has one problem. Horror licenses aren't sustainable. While horror is one of the largest genres of film, it's pretty rare that a good and well-loved horror franchise or movie is created. There will come a day when all the last licenses are either unavailable, or too expensive, small, or niche to be worth putting any money into. If you don't believe me, then think about DBD's current licensing state. How many more big-time licenses are left? There's Jason, Alien, Predator, Pennywise, Candyman, and Springtrap as the main 6 licenses that the community wants. There are other smaller, more niche licenses like Dead Space, Terrifier, or Wendigo, but those won't have nearly as much of a draw as the 6 mentioned before. 6 big licenses is already a small number, but that's not a genuine representation of the situation. Jason is stuck in an eternal legal hell. Springtrap is easily the most controversial license that they could include that doesn't involve a criminally convicted creator, and the rights holders for Pennywise have already turned down Behavior's offers to make a chapter for the franchise. That takes 3 of the 6 licenses out of the picture, which already isn't very pretty. But if you believe the rumors that 3 Gens Incarnate and the Singularity were supposed to be Alien and Predator, but the license holders backed out last second, that leaves only Candyman as the last of these big 6 licenses that may be readily available for Behavior to use. And even then, if we're being honest with ourselves, Candyman is easily the smallest license of this group, and really just included because people have been wanting him ever since they thought that Anniversary 4 was teasing. But with celebrity licenses in the picture, a whole new world of licenses has opened, for better or worse. Unlike movie licenses, a celebrity license will replenish at a much faster rate due to how general the term is and how fast the Hollywood moves. The licenses may start with actors who've worked in horror before slowly broadening into just actors, and then maybe a couple years down the line it might spread to other forms of celebrities like musicians, comedians, or worst of all, influencers. All jokes aside, as long as there's 3 people on Earth, there will always be a celebrity. Meaning that by setting the precedent for celebrities to be in the game, as licensed chapters or characters, Behavior has essentially solved their licensing problem permanently. On the surface, this is perfectly fine, especially considering the main celebrity in question right now is a horror veteran, featuring in all sorts of horror films, even if they aren't exactly renowned for their quality. However, the problems will start to arise when you start to look towards the future of both DBD and the asymmetrical horror genre as a whole. First off, I've heard some people say it'll ruin the game's purpose as a horror hall of fame, to which I just have to remind them that the Trickster, the character who ruined the horror atmosphere of the game and laid the groundwork for the ever-growing over-sexualization of DBD's characters, has been in the game for years at this point, so it's not even worth arguing. There's a lot of valid complaints and concerns about celebrity licenses, but at the moment this is not one of them. If they start to bring in celebrities who clearly have no place in the game, like Taylor Swift, Lizzo, or Robert Downey Jr., then maybe we can come back to this argument. A much more concrete concern is the fact that these kinds of licenses are creating another layer of difficulty for any game hoping to try and compete with DBD. Because not only will DBD have the advantages of development time, content backlog, horror licenses and its extreme existing popularity, now any aspiring ASIM games are going to have to compete with DBD having a much broader and more general appeal outside of the horror genre, mainly due to any and all celebrity licenses they managed to acquire. That's a lot for an aspiring ASIM to compete with, especially if it's a smaller or indie studio. Already most ASIMs can't compete with DBD, oftentimes unceremoniously failing within a year after their release, with the only ones who are still barely managing to hang on are Identity V with its high popularity in China, Evil Dead, whose only support is a ventilator of copium that the community found while waiting for any form of an update. And yes, while TCM looks promising, it's going to have a hard time staying afloat after the initial hype due to the fact that it's a game built around an existing IP, meaning new content, both licensed and original, is going to be very hard to create and add. Even if you don't care if DBD gets competition, there are some problems that celebrity licenses pose for DBD itself, but before we get into that, I'm gonna have to ask you something. Check your politics at the door. This isn't the place to discuss that. If you want to talk about that, just go make a Twitter thread or something. Now that that unfortunately necessary sidetrack is out of the way, we can continue. Whenever behavior adds a celebrity into DBD, many people are going to see that as an endorsement of that celebrity as a person. If this person was to do something even slightly controversial, these people who see the license as an endorsement are going to immediately turn to behavior and pressure them to take a stance on the issue. And this is a PR nightmare for behavior just waiting to happen. I could go into a long and elaborate fictional example full of clever allegory, blink and you'll miss it references, and witty satire that gracefully demonstrates my point without turning the comments into a free-for-all, but that would take, work, and let's be honest with ourselves here. No one does YouTube, even just as a hobby, to do work. So it's easier just to point to a recent real-world example that happened a while ago while I was scripting this video and momentarily turn into a commentary channel. Of course, what I'm talking about is what happened with Nick Mercs, a COD streamer who, for those who don't know or regularly lose memory games to a goldfish, said something mildly controversial, which angered a group of people who, in turn, pressured Activision into removing his character from the most recent Call of Duty game. This then angered even more people, and the situation got so bad that Activision had to disable comments on most of their social medias for a while because the comments became a war zone. Regardless of where you stand on this issue, it's impossible to deny that the biggest loser here is Activision and Call of Duty, since they were put between a rock and a hard place, and no matter what they did, they were going to anger somebody with how they handled the situation. I know some of you are thinking, oh, just only work with good celebrities, insert whatever popular celebrity here. But I have to ask, who's to judge? The sheer concept of good is subjective. While there may be a shared consensus of some base things that are good, like not waffle stomping a pack of newborn puppies, we as humans aren't given the luxury of just staying within that base section of good, and are forced into the more gray areas that consist of modern politics. Especially when there's hundreds of thousands of people with their cameras trying to pry apart every minute detail of your life. And for the sake of argument, even if you were able to stay within the consensus, there will still be people who are mad at you and will try at every turn to sabotage you and make things up just because you were successful and they aren't. And that's already a lot, but there's more, as if that wasn't already enough. It only takes one drunken, out of context, or poorly worded tweet for a celebrity to permanently damage their career, their reputation, and the reputation of anyone they've worked with in the past. When the license is just a character, it's much easier to separate it from either the creator or the actor and their actions, especially since most licenses don't get the likeness rights. But when the license is the actor and not a character, we open up a world of nasty possibilities for controversy, and each and every one will, by extension, reflect poorly on both DBD and its community. Another facet of this, albeit a minor one, is that if someone was to be removed from the game a la Stranger Things or Attack on Titan skins, that's more content in the game that new and casual players will never get to experience without using a sketchy and probably illegal website. And no matter how small this list of unusable content is, it will always be a terrible feeling when you find out you can't use that content because of something outside of your control. I know this isn't the most robust or in-depth discussion of these potential problems, as they're all very large, complicated matters that could easily be an entire video on their own, but like I said, I'm working on another bigger video, and I just kind of wanted to try and jumpstart this conversation within the community, so the community at large can discuss it further. Anyways, with all that said, happy hunting.